Rylan Griffin has entered the transfer portal for the second straight season. Last offseason, when he entered, he was coming off of a year for Alabama where he started 33 games, averaged over 11 points per game, shot nearly 40% from three, was one of the most coveted players available because of his potential as a 3 and D guy, what he showed as a shooter, what he showed at Bama, and what he could potentially show in an increased role. Gets to Kansas, none of that comes to fruition. Scoring drops just over 6 per game. Shooting percentages drop to about 33.6% from deep. Was not an impact player for the Jayhawks at all. And now he's back in the portal. Dion hasn't released a list of schools yet or anything like that, but Rylan Griffin, the player, how bad do you think this last season hurt his prospects for what he could potentially, or where he could potentially land in the next couple of weeks?
No idea where he's going to land, to be honest. This is one of the more interesting portal guys into the portal I think that we have. Because Rylan Griffin, coming off of his season at Bama, where he shot 40% from three, could have won anywhere in the country he wanted to go, which is that's how you wind up at Kansas, by the way. Doesn't work out at Kansas, to say the absolute least. To say the absolute least.
Yeah,
Shot
what went wrong? What went wrong
30
with him in Kansas?
the season for Kansas, just start to finish, just start to finish. The whole season went wrong for them. They were on the Darren Peterson at a very early stage of this season. But no, I just think Kansas was like poorly. One of the interesting aspects of NIL portal, et cetera, is roster construction. It's bigger than putting names together, right? We in the NBA, you sometimes you see really good teams like Phoenix has Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic, Bradley Beal. On paper, that should be one of the best teams in basketball. They stink, like they're really bad. It's you can't just throw names together. I feel like Kansas kind of threw a bunch of names together and said, "Hey, figure it out," and it was like, "Yeah, no, this just doesn't work." Um, and they've kind of done that since Hunter Dickinson got there, by the way, for what it's worth. So
Yeah.
I think it was a poor fit, not for him as a team. And that's where I'm like, who's going to take a chance? Bama is the team that should take a chance, though.
I think that would work better for both sides. I think there was a part of him that kind of wish he didn't leave Alabama, not because of anything to do with Kansas, but it wasn't working out clearly, right? Kansas, I think, needed him to be more productive than he was, but he never looked like himself. He never looked confident. He never looked comfortable playing for Kansas in that system. Bama needs a veteran. Bama needs a shooter. Bama needs somebody who's used to their system. Rylan Griffin is right there for you. A bounce back there wouldn't surprise me. But if you were a coach of a team other than Alabama or Kansas, obviously, how attracted would you be to Griffin as a prospect? Would you go after him like somebody just had a bad year and you think can get back to the level he played at Alabama, or are you more apt to stay away from him because of how bad the Kansas thing went?
I would take a chance. I think Kansas went, like I said, I think Kansas just had a poor season. I think they put together a roster that was poorly constructed. I would take a chance on him the same way I would take a chance on Floyd Badunga. So I would definitely take a chance on him. If I'm Bama, I think it's an easy chance to take because you had him already and you know what he's capable of.
Mhm. Do you think other schools like Kansas should get involved? Not Kansas, obviously, but schools at that level, like a North Carolina, a Kentucky, like should he still have his pick of where he wants, essentially?
I, I think, well, North Carolina should be in on anybody, by the way.
That's a separate conversation, yes.
That's a separate conversation, but anyone with a name North Carolina should be interested in because they somehow have to form a roster. But I think a lot of that, I say this with a lot of these kids, it really comes down to where their head's at. If their head is at the point where he's willing to earn his role, I think everyone should take a chance on Rylan Griffin. If he's adamant, I will only come if I start, I'm good. Good luck to you. I hear Miami and Kansas State need players.
Well, that's an interesting side of this because as a sophomore, his last year at Alabama, he started 33 games. It was rumored that part of the reason he did not return to Alabama and that he hit the portal was he was not guaranteed to have the same kind of role, right? With who Bama was bringing in the portal, who they had coming in as freshmen, who they had returning, his role was probably going to shrink slightly. He was still going to be an impact player for Alabama, but his role was going to shrink slightly. The idea of what was going to happen at Kansas was that he was probably going to start at the three alongside AJ Storr and Dwan Harris in the backcourt. That was at least what was projected, and it never played out that way. He did start 20 games, but his minutes dropped, his usage dropped, shots dropped, everything dropped, largely due to his play. But that was the plan. So do you, if you were Rylan Griffin, do you go somewhere else like with a promise to start, a promise of a certain amount of playing time as your top priority, or are you looking to go back somewhere where you fit better and can contribute to winning, and you're more okay with yourself as a role player?
I think you have to be okay with yourself as a role player based on what happened. If a school, if you cast a wide net and then Oklahoma State comes across, respectfully, Oklahoma State, and they're like, hey, this is your backcourt, do whatever you want, and that's what you want, then go take it. If you're casting a lesser net and you want to go to some of those, you've been at Alabama and Kansas, like, let's be honest, to be a starter, you'd have to take a step back. If you don't want to do that, then be okay with the lesser role. I personally believe um, he's not going to be a star in the NBA. And this is assuming he even gets a crack at the NBA, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe if your goal is to make it the NBA, why not play the role you would play in the NBA? Now, respectfully to him, his role in the NBA would probably be sitting on the bench. So I don't want him to do that. But like, if you do something lesser to where you can prove to NBA teams like, hey, I'm a 40% three-point shooter and I'll get after it on defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the ball doesn't stop when I get it. I continually move the rock. I make all the right plays. I think that's as important as it is just to start and kind of freelance.
Yeah, I would love selfishly to see a return to Alabama. I think the system obviously works well with him. He's had success there. It's the last time he looked comfortable, so he played for Alabama. The Tide also have a need for a three with who they have returning, and the lone like question mark is the three. If you can plug him back in there, I think that works well. Just Kentucky seems to be in on everybody. It wouldn't surprise me here, given Griffin's 3-point pedigree and shooting reputation. Would not surprise me to see like Kentucky interested. Wouldn't surprise me to see a school like UCLA interested, especially just after adding Donovan Dent, having somebody who could shoot and space the court, be good as well. His skill set at its peak is incredibly desirable. The tough part's going to be deciding, is he still at his peak, and is that peak still achievable for him or not?
Good question. That's a good question. I hope it is. I feel like this is a kid that coming off his sophomore year, like he chose to transfer.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot 40% at Bama, averaging nearly 12 points a game. You had a shot at the league after that type of season. And I really hope he didn't choose a short-sighted perspective, in my opinion, which is let me take the money in college and pass up on the NBA dream and then ruin it. Because that's one aspect of this NIL stuff where it's like, well, you could make more money in college if you're projected to be a second round pick. Yes, you can. But if your draft stock tanks, no, you cannot. So for
Yeah.
his sake, I really hope he didn't ruin any potential possibility he has at the next level by coming back for his junior year. Because subsequently now he's back for his senior year.
Yeah, I do think a bag was involved, just because that tends to be the case with big names like this. I don't want to say that the transfer was entirely bag driven because the fit on paper looked really good at Kansas. Kansas was the preseason #1 team in the country for a reason, and Griffin was a part of that. But I do think fit is probably going to matter much more this time around because it is your senior year and your stock has dropped, your production has dropped. You want to get it right more than anything else, particularly if you're taking that long term approach. So I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see who's interested in him and when the list comes out, who is on it, and if there are teams other than Bama, because it may just be a one team list. We'll see.
It is March, and that means that March Madness is upon us. And if you are looking for a place to play, Underdog Fantasy has you covered. Sign up and deposit using code SLEEPERS, that's code SLEEPERS, to receive up to $1,000 in bonus credit plus a free pick. Head over to Underdog Fantasy today and use promo code SLEEPERS to take advantage of this amazing offer.